Incoming message.
How did you get all of these bodies to be not just in the one city that you know, but all over the world?
Traveling.
So there is a high likelihood that a lot of these people that you see on exhibit are political prisoners that came from China, and we are starting to display them all over here.
What's going on, fam? This is KR Jones of the Off the Strength podcast, and I am here to tell you to like, listen, subscribe, and if you're feeling freaky, visit offthestrength.com. That's where you can go and get more information on us. That's where we can link, we can build, we can connect, and let's make this thing work.
I said, self, we ain't gonna black out right now because this is not what we agreed to, but
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna keep it moving, man. You know,
remind yourself.
I definitely did.
Nobody
man.
built like you. You designed yourself.
Yo, I definitely had some reminders this week, and I was kind of offended by some of them, bro. You ever have someone tell you something about yourself that you vehemently disagree with, but then heard it a bunch more times and had to accept it as a fact?
Yes and no, but yeah, talk to me about yours.
I found out this week that I am officially a no ID ass year old person. Meaning,
right.
I'm old enough that nobody ever needs to see my ID.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to be called the OG.
Word.
I found the gray hair in my beard, and I don't even have a full beard. All that shit came down at once, and I was not happy about it.
Time moves fast.
What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where you are getting an inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course, with me, I have a gentleman of extraordinary league.
KR Jones is in the building.
That's right, folks. We are back. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you are now in store for a treat because it's the return of the variety show. That's when we give you our best foot forward. So hopefully you take your best foot forward. You do that two-step, that tango, whatever it is you need to do to make it on through the week with the best goddamn wellness information available.
Yay!
Now, Brother Jones, what was the thing that you heard that you had to feel a little conflicted by but accept after a while?
You know, it's super weird because this happened to the both of us when we were out, and I think the word was, you two look like movie stars.
Okay.
Right?
I accept that. Aim for the bushes.
That's not the first time that I've heard that. And it's such a conflicting comment because I got that on the airplane before too. And it's like, well, what does a movie star look like? Because they're playing a role. So that's,
yeah.
And you never see them in their regular clothes like ever. So it's just like, these are my regular clothes. What are you really trying to say?
You look like a character. It's like,
do I?
I don't know who he is.
Or do I just look elevated from everybody else in the room where I'm not regular, I stand out? You don't have a term for it, so movie star is where you go. It's like, so I'm famous adjacent. Cool.
So since you are used to being a person that kind of stands out in any type of room you go, why don't you tell us a little bit about the rooms that you happen to frequent this very week, sir?
Man, the rooms that I frequented this week were not all inside. It was also on the yard, if you will. Very homecoming vibes for CultureCon, as well as attending the Jack Taylor Fall Wellness Festival.
Yes, sir.
Now, the interesting part about sticking out, before we dive into the rooms, I would say, is I couldn't blend in if I tried to, bro. Like, not even a little bit. And that was the realization that I came to earlier this week, where it's like, fam, even if I'm in the lowest of keys, trying to be out the way, blend in, I can't, right? And I've been trying to unpack why that is, and my energy has shifted to not trying to unpack why, because that was getting me lost into it, but more understanding, well, damn, what's the power in that?
What you want to do with it?
What do I want to do with that power, that influence, and this realization? And that brings me to these rooms that we've been in, bro. I don't know the through line or the short math on the amount of people that were also at CultureCon and the Jack Taylor Festival.
I'm going to tell you, it's not a lot.
Two for certain. Off the strip.
There were two. There were definitely two.
It was you and I, T.Y.
Yeah, exactly.
Unity.
Apparently, we're a duo, too. That was also something that came about.
Women's game.
Nasty behavior.
Is nasty behavior. Like, women, work on your pickup lines and work on your interactions when you're trying to talk to somebody interesting, because 9 times out of 10, you don't have it, and it's super awkward, and I'm going to let us sit in this awkwardness.
I had somebody hit me up the other day, and I was riding my, like, legitimately beater bike. You know what that bike looks like. You know everything. Hey, that's a really nice bike. Where'd you get it from? I was like, now that's I know that this is not the question that you're asking me because it does not look like at all this is the activity that you're interested in. So it's like, what's the real question behind the question? It's like, this is the icebreaker. I understand. I appreciate it. I could give you the story, but that's not why you're stopping me. So what's happening right now?
That don't make no kind of sense because you ain't even on that type of time.
At all. So that's why I'll be trying to cut through the noise, man. And I think that was a little bit of a happenings in my week as well. You know, I do definitely want to reflect on CultureCon and the Jack Taylor event, but we also went to that first Saturday too. And I do want to say, I did see some Jones clones around. You might stand out, but there was some Jones-esque people on the periphery.
But it's different, though.
But you know them. This is really what I want you to embrace. I want you to really be a part of your tribe.
My tribe is out here, bro. We roll deep.
Yeah, man. So I was happy to see all of that. It was a beautiful night in Brooklyn, beautiful week in Brooklyn across all standards. And I just also came in from that I Am Perspective and Jahala Men in Mental Health event that I've been promoting across the show for the last couple of weeks, man. And I gotta say, Kyle, I was in a room for the third time this week with a bunch of people that have been on this show and people who have seen the work that we have done and held it to a high esteem. So I'm really coming off of a week of reaffirmation in the fact that we have been doing what we were supposed to be doing for the people who are aspiring to get to here for the longest of time, man.
I mean, I can only champion that type of work, recognition, and behavior. So kudos to you for that, brother. And when you're on the stage, I know you're dropping some gems.
See, folks, we really do move differently, and I really want to unpack what that movement looks like. And Kyle, I'm going to take this into the Ask the Professional question this week.
Well, lay it out so they can play it out, Tony.
Well, Kyle, we talked about CultureCon, and now in a room full of what people would describe as creatives who look good, who are all coming in, nobody's coming up short. You know, everybody, in your words.
I disagree. It was some shortcomings in there.
There were some people that
hold backs out.
They had different politics in mind. You know?
Sure.
They were going in a different direction, but they still, amongst their crowd, was definitely eating, as they say.
So to speak.
So I can't knock them for what was going on. You know, I do have to ask, though, all these people concerned about what they look like, how do they actually feel? Because I'm looking around at what was being served. I'm looking around at what people were doing. I'm looking at what people are putting in their body. And I can't see the correlation between what you're putting in and what you're getting out. So we could polish it up as much as we want. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it was a distinct effort to understand what people are actually feeling like. Conversely, I go to the Jack Taylor event, and Kyle, we are in a room again full of people who are health and wellness professionals from one lens or another. Either they're people who are practitioners, they're people who are in media, which I learned that we were selected specifically because of our media prowess. So
off the strength.
Shout out to the people who know what to do out there. I like what they got going on. But in a room of wellness professionals, Kyle, not everybody even knows what to talk about. Not even everybody even knows what to ask. And of course, there's some people that came into that room that I want to be as far and clearly distinct away from that I never want to be associated with. Don't put me in the same sentence as these people. I seen a man in a whole ass bear suit, and it was just because he decided to be a bear that day. I was like, this is a lost brother. He's in a sunken place. We don't need to be in any pictures together. Make sure he's on the other side of the room whenever I'm around.
Halloween is coming up, but the bear costume is crazy.
That was his Tuesday fit. That wasn't something that he pulled out for anything other than it was Tuesday. And the fact that he had it on, and there was only but 3 black people in the room at the same time, I know he was going to get lumped in the same conversation. But that's neither here nor there, Kyle. Our ability to seamlessly navigate both the arts world and the fitness world provides a unique perspective that I don't really know if the world truly appreciates, Kyle. But we're going to come on here and we're going to talk about how we promote that perspective into some opportunities this week, my man. So I want to ask you, how can we use this platform to bridge these communities, showing how movement can inspire creativity and how artistic expression can enhance the physical and mental health? Because both of those places needed a little bit of that mix. They needed some crossover. And I know if there's going to be anybody who could really articulate what to put that together, it is going to be my brother KR Jones. So what's your thoughts on that?
Man, Brother Tone, I appreciate you, the thoughtfulness and the question and even just the presentation of it. And I sit here and I think about last week on the show when I was asked, you know, what is the show about? When people always hear that we podcast, they want to be like, yo, what is it about? And I said that it's about putting your best foot forward. Right now, the way that happens with this platform specifically is we first deemed ourselves as movement artists, which I don't think was a title that exists because I know it didn't exist because I didn't see it anywhere.
I'm going to stamp it.
So the movement artist definition was then born of this is how I show up into the world. Well, what does that mean? Well, these are the different ways that I can show you this art, and this is how you can participate in it and be in business with such art and even experiential value, if you will, right? And what I think most people catch up to later in life is when they see it, right? So when I think about bike yoga this summer and this activation that we had at Hudson River Park, the term bike yoga is attractive. It's titillizing, if you will. Hey, what's that? Well, tell me about it. I want to hear more. And to this point, we've never really had visuals to match. So now you have the word, you have visuals, and you have the space. And now it's time to continue to build, right? And I think the separation begins to happen when we keep doing the work, and then that work is also documented. I think seeing is truly believing, right? And I'm not seeing a lot of people do what we do. I'm not hearing people bring to the table what we bring to the table. I see people that look like me, but their output ain't the same as my output, right? So when I take advantage of this reflection and look at the landscape, I really see the separation is already there, right? And I think the proliferation, if you will, continues with just doing the work, right? Oftentimes when we meet, you talk about you got to earn the behavior or earn the ability, so to speak, to do this thing. I earned it, bro. Yeah. I got skin in the game. What's the term? I cut my teeth on the sidewalk.
I never want to cut teeth.
It sounds like a bad thing. Yeah. Because it is, right? It's lived experience, right? And lived experience isn't always positive. It's lessons that you have to learn through that, right? And that's why I love an expression like that. You carry the work with you, as I talked about before. So when we have a conversation and I tell you what I'm doing and what I've done, I can see you get inspired in that conversation because you can feel it, right? And that's how we attract strangers, from the, disheveled people on the street to somebody trying to sell a small business in a wellness fair.
Yeah, literally drop a weight on you in the middle of a conversation. Yo, hold my weight. I know you need to be the one that holds this.
And to end this long-winded rant, because, you brought me here, when I think about the two events that you mentioned, the CultureCon, where people look amazing on the outside, but how they feel on the inside isn't really talked about. The surface is scratched on there, but how is it that you gather all of these people and the wellness is still missing? From the food that we eat to how we rest to you just getting cooked in the sun, essentially, and your best fit. It almost reminds me of going to church and you put your best outfit on for that one day a week. What about the other 6 days? Why can't you praise the Lord all week? Why I gotta be this one day? And then you think about the wellness people in the Jack Taylor event that, for lack of a better term, they praise the Lord every day. They get their workout in, they taking their colostrum and their magnesium.
First of all, we got to talk about that at another time too.
At another date, we'll pick up the milk extract for mammals. But when I think about those people that go above and beyond to present as well as they are, but they lack that internal meter, right? That internal meter of oh, this is cool, or that artistic meter, I should say, right? Yeah. They don't see the art in all of the life that they're pouring into themselves versus the people that pour all their life into themselves and not the art of the other side around. But it's a tricky topic, man.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening when you become a deemable expert in one area, you might only look at the world through that lens. Yeah. And I think I have had the privilege to never overcommit to any one of these disciplines that I would say you could find me into. So although that might not make me the most excellent version of whatever you would want to put me in a category for, it gives me a wide enough array of skills to pull from to be able to blend in and not be at the bottom of any of these rooms at the same time. So for me, it really does tie back into what do you want to get out of here? So everybody showed up for a specific reason, but like, what's your impact? What's your legacy? Where's your work show up in how you live your day-to-day life? If this is just a costume that you put on, hey, more power to you for wearing that. I'm not going to knock it. But when you take this off, how do you feel? When you put this on in the mirror, how did you feel? Like, what's all of that going? What does that conversation sound like internally? And on the other side, if your output is the only thing that you ever want to be measured by, or if your physicality is the only thing that you ever want to be measured by, the substance by which you investigate the world is definitely going to be lacking. But Kyle, I hope that by us existing in the ways that we do, we're able to build more inclusive and engaging spaces that really have that cross-pollination happening. Hey, we want the artists to be hanging out with the thugs, with the other members of the organic tribe, with the yogis, with the people who are doing accounting. Why not? Come on, Sarah, come on over on this side. Get down with the squad. We will make this big multicultural umbrella, this big multicultural net to kind of pull everybody in and get the best out of life. That's really what I hope for in that kind of sentiment, my man.
No, I agree 100%, man. I think about my days as a kid playing recess. And when it was time to play kickball, everybody played kickball.
You can tell who was getting picked last. And I feel like sometimes that really does stand out. It walks with you in life.
Listen, it does. But then also everybody has their own output. Everybody has a role to play. I was the type of kid, I came to the plate, back up, Kyle's here. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't really show my full capabilities because I did that too often and they was on to my tricks. But nonetheless, man, leveling the playing field by letting everybody meet at their artistic prowess, so to speak, is a beautiful space that I think more people should appreciate.
Yeah, man, we get more people into the well-being and wellness fold, and we're trying to make sure that when they get there, you know how to act. And it's going to be relax it a little bit. Make sure you're here. Make sure you're having a good time. Don't make it weird. That's the bottom line at the end of the day.
Don't be a creep.
And on that note, we can't even mention that man's name. We're going to get him out of here. We're going to talk about some good. We ain't going to talk about that bad.
All right.
But we're going to get into some ugly this week, Kyle. It's time for this week's episode of Rip from the Headlines. And Kyle, I need to talk to you about a pill that I saw come out recently. Now, Kyle.
A pill?
There is a pill that has just been developed that is going to give you the benefits of running a 10K by mimicking all of the physiological impacts on your body. Now, scientists have created a pill in the University of Denmark that is said to have a molecule that could give you the exact kind of feelings and the exact kind of results that you would get after running a 10K. So I know you've participated in 5Ks, 10Ks, things of that nature. What do you feel like typically when you're doing that?
Exhausted.
So if a pill can make you do that and give you all of the benefits of having fasting metabolic exercise, what are your thoughts on how that's going to play out in the real world?
I'm not here for it, right? I think about the limitless pill. I think about all of these other digestible things to expedite doing the work. No, I'm not here for it. You can't cut corners. You can't just science your way into longevity in life. You have to show up and do the work.
Yeah, for me, the thing that is questionable is that if your body thinks it's exercising and it's not exercising, something bad is going to happen. I don't know what that is.
For sure.
But it's like your heart rate's up. Your muscles are contracting. It's like all of these, your breathing rate is going to be elevated. I can't tell you that just sitting down and sitting around and just watching TV while that's happening.
I'm going to just take a pill.
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work out for you.
I ran a 10K this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
It was with my coffee.
And with some colostrum in there. It's like they're trying to get it all up out of you at the same time, man.
Before you slide into something else, I just want people to unpack this, right? You ever have people that chew gum a lot and then eventually their stomach gets an ulcer in it over time? It's because you chew gum and your body starts to salivate because it thinks food is going to go down into your stomach, and food never goes there. And that acid that is supposed to break down the minerals of the food that you eat starts to eat at your stomach internally, and then you get an ulcer, right? Like, I can only imagine the impacts of taking a pill that would stimulate or simulate, if you will, a 10K, and I'm on my ass on the couch, Netflix and chilling.
I'm trying to tell you now. See, this is also going to be the part where, hey, everybody thought that the GL1P class of drugs, that's the Ozempics and the Mounjaros and all the rest of that stuff, was not going to take off the way they did. Made trillions of dollars this year. If they get this to get passed by the Food and Drug Administration, you're going to see a lot of runners who never ran. I promise you that.
6.2 miles.
They never
It's a 10K.
run. Yes.
I ran 7 and almost lost my knees. I don't recommend it.
All right. Well, speaking of the run community, I'm going to introduce you to maybe some indoor running that actually can still be running, Kyle. Now, Averion came out with a gamified treadmill this week.
You said what now?
Averion. So
Okay.
Averion is a connected wellness equipment company that their entire line, which includes a rower, a bike, and now a treadmill, is all about putting games directly on there. And this is how you engage with the actual equipment. So picture you having legitimately like a Frogger or something that is
The gamification.
it's gamification, but to a level where it's like, no, we made a game system that also happens to have a treadmill or a bike. Or
I
a row.
remember my first Wii. You know what I'm saying?
It's taking that to the next level. So seeing that
One more time with the name?
Averion.
That sounds like a erectile dysfunction medicine. I'm back in the game
You can
with
get-
my Virion, baby.
You can get the ED pill and the 10K pill at the same time. The run clubs is going to look real nasty in a little bit.
It's going to be overpopulated and pumping.
So new and existing members can now pre-order the treadmill for $2,400. So it's not even fully out yet, but you can pre-order this. And this is the thing that I was thinking was very interesting on here. You already are selling a package and a subscription-based model for something that won't land until next year, right? And the subscription is going to start off at $24 a month. Now, we've seen what has happened with these connected devices, these the kind of runway that Peloton has laid out and everybody else is doing the subscription-based model. What's your thoughts on where this is going to land for? Really looks like it's targeted for people who are not interested in working out. We're finding everything else to make you do this thing that you kind of don't want to do. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a short runway, right? Like the yield and the entry sounds amazing. Of like, yo, I can get all of this for $24 a month. The reality is, after a year of that equipment collecting dust and you get tired of paying for this thing that you don't use, you're just going to stop. You're going to continue to do whatever else you were doing outside of this equipment that you purchased.
And I don't understand how people keep losing sight of that every year, Kyle, but I keep finding different ways to need to remind you that Bowflex was hanging clothes up for the longest of time.
Shout out to Chuck Norris, man.
Shout out to Chuck Norris, everything else. But since the middle of legitimately the 80s, we've always had some brand new piece of equipment that people use all of 2 to 3 times.
Equipment, tapes,
Yeah.
you name it.
The
Clothing?
Ty Bo, Billy Blanks, all the rest of them, like, all
Nah.
that stuff got dusty.
The clothing gets used. Like the irony of people wearing exercise, like athleisure wear,
That's just a part of fashion now.
but not actually working out is hilarious to
And
me.
you really think that pill is not going to take off? I'm going to let you know. I'm promising you it's coming back around.
Start sweating in them leggings, baby girl.
Speaking of stuff that is going to make you sweat a little bit more. Now, Kyle, my blood pressure rose in seeing this next article that came out over here. Now, we have spoken about extensively on here before the loneliness epidemic really taking off, right?
Oof.
And it is not something that, I want to say people should take for granted, because poor social relationships do show increases of cardiovascular disease by at least 29%. You can get an increase in the likelihood of you having a stroke by at least 32%. And you need to have strong friendships to improve your mental markers and your physiological, and emotional markers. It's just, people need people. We're not supposed to be in isolation all the time. And we're really coming across a crisis where post-pandemic, a lot of people are having an issue with making friends. Kyle, fear not, because somebody decided this week that they're going to take it on themselves to cure the loneliness epidemic. Now, Kyle, I sent you this article a little bit earlier this week about Pi. Now, Pi is an app that is dedicated to helping you make friends at work. Now, Kyle, the app that is supposed to be the cure to loneliness is made by a guy who made socks, right? His first hit, and I'm not going to knock his sock hit. They're good socks, whatever, fun prints, and they're supposed to have something that makes you feel better. But honestly, at the end of the day, Andy Dunn is not somebody that I would say is a mental health advocate prior to him getting into this loneliness epidemic. But he did show up in World Mental Health Day. I kept seeing things that were advertising Pi. So now Pi is going to be something that they're looking to really push into these different markets, primarily looking at the workspace and trying to cure what's happening at work by helping and hosting different events to help you make friends. Now, Pi, Kyle, this past week raised $11.5 million. $11.5 million to help people make friends. What's your thoughts on that when you hear that story?
See, you always start high and then go low when you throw the price in there and the detail about the socks and all of that. You know, I think about loneliness and how it affects people on a real level, especially as the seasons change. The sun's out a lot shorter than it used to be. And it's a real thing if you are a poor person. You know? And I don't mean poor in the sense of monetary value, but if you aren't outputting any type of vibration into the world, you're going to be by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I don't know if I need a pie to set up my work friends, because a lot of times the people that I work with weren't really my friends, Tony.
This is what I got to keep landing on, Kyle. I got to keep coming back to the same point.
And I don't want that to be a thing. Like the job market, or not even the job market, the work culture tries to make work as like an enjoyable experience. When 9 times out of 10, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
That's like my energy. So I don't want to try to make that time better, to make it go by faster. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. This bullshit, Tony. I've been loving what I've been doing for years.
I've been working every damn day.
I work every goddamn day, right?
Twice a day sometimes.
Twice a day. Sometimes more than that. So it's bullshit. I don't want to have more work friends. I want my work to be more friendly.
Yeah.
I want it to be more respecting of my time outside of work, so that I could be maybe a little bit more productive than y'all trying to force me to be.
So the thing that I really wanted to key in on here is the fact that somebody could come up with anything in the term of what mental health is this year specifically.
Yep.
And it's going to get funded at a level that it does not make sense. I really promise you, I want to be able to have that day where I could walk in and describe to somebody an activity that I normally do and be like, yo, I need to raise about $11.5 million for
It's called the smoke break, Tony.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
That's the new app. The newest app is
Smoke
break.
Right? And I'm raising money for you to take your time, not to smoke, but if you do, you can, but just to take a break.
Everybody could take a smoke break.
Everybody could take a break. We could get Newports and Marlboros and all of them on there.
See, this is the
as
help and
sponsors. We're not going to use them. We just need their money to back us, Tony.
Nah, we got to stay away from those guys. Yeah, keep them up out of here.
I need a fresh Camel.
Yeah, it's wild out here, man. It's definitely a crazy time. Speaking of breaks, Kyle, apparently a lot of these people who couldn't make friends at the office are going to start to turn to making friends on in other areas. And some of those other areas involve weekend sports. Now, Kyle, I did not understand the attraction to pickleball, paddleball, and anything of that nature, but it has been something that has been taken off a lot more.
Yeah.
Apparently, pickleball injuries are going to cost over $350 million this year.
For sure.
Why do you think that that's happening?
Because nobody's stretching for this dynamic play that you're doing. Tennis is by far the most dynamic sport you can play.
Okay.
First and foremost, like if we're talking on the individual basis, the amount of ground you got to cover between left, right, front to center, all the above, and then you mix that with somebody else with a smaller paddle, and folks is not ready for it. The core demographic is older people that really ain't doing the stretches they need to do. So I predict some ankle injuries, some wrist injuries, all types of stuff.
Yeah, so
Little Tommy John.
I definitely look at it as slow tennis. So
yeah,
it makes sense to me. But 90% of the hospital visits that have occurred from people doing recreational activities are coming from this new sport that also has this high level of popularity.
The weekend warriors.
Rotational activities is something that if you are a sedentary person, you just can't expect for yourself to be ready for coming out the gate.
That's torque that you got, gravity that's working against you, them badass knees.
The knees, but surprisingly, spinal injuries are also something that's there as well, bro. If you sit most of the day and then you go to wind up and try to do your best overhand serve,
you're pulling something.
You're going down bad. So please do invest in a warm-up strategy and do invest in a recovery strategy if you are going to be picking up the paddles out here.
And your adrenaline going to be running all crazy, so you're not really going to feel it till the next day. And then that's when you're going to be immobilized.
So my last conversation that I want to have does talk about a little bit of what people might be feeling the next day. Now, Kyle, this is going to be coming from Fortune Magazine, and Fortune Magazine is announcing that some of the newest additions to the new Strava app are not necessarily landing with people the right way. So Strava just pushed out a new AI coach. And this AI coach is going to give you encouragement throughout the workouts, but it's not necessarily landing exactly where they wanted it to just yet. So they've been trying to inject some humor into the AI coach that's coming over here, right?
Strike one right there.
The problem with that is not everybody finds everything funny.
Of course not.
And sometimes you really have to be highly calibrated to know when you need to make the joke and when you don't. So there was a man by the name of Nash Cossings, and Nash was riding his bike in Brooklyn, of all places. And I understand, like, riding in Brooklyn, and much like we've been riding all around the city, when you're riding in New York, you're doing so as your own risk, and it is a high-contact sport. Nash was riding around, and somebody doored him last week. Now, when he got doored, this was recorded on his Strava app.
Yeah.
The Strava app saw that his workout just abruptly ended and didn't understand why his workout abruptly ended.
Yep.
So do you know what the AI coach said?
Get your ass up, chump.
The AI coach said, ouch, looks like you got into an accident. Hope you're okay, but your output's doing pretty good. So maybe you'll be able to pick right back up next time and go forward. Now, I don't know if that's the message that I want to get after I just got into a car accident from the athletic intelligence. That's what they're calling their AI in that space. And they're also starting to see a lot of different, just random things that are popping up from this AI side. So when the coaching goes wrong, and it can't necessarily read the room, it's giving people some encouragement or some jabs that they don't necessarily want when they're actually in the moment of being injured. What's your thoughts on this new AI that also needs to be funny to motivate you to work out, my man?
Tony, you want to hear a joke about construction?
Sure.
I'm still working on it.
There we go.
Right? That's how I feel about this goddamn app, right? Athletic intelligence, that's
AI.
the stuff that raises my blood pressure right there, right? Because you're trying to remix and upsell and do all of these things to AI as we know it. The only AI I recognize is Allen Iverson.
There we go.
Not even Andre Iguodala, just Allen Iverson. Right?
Ironically, Allen Iverson is selling AI commercials in China.
He's not selling. They sold his image from one of the video games because that's not the AI I know, right? I don't respect that. But when I think about the integration of AI into wellness and something like this, like, fam, why would I need my athletic intelligence giving me jokes after I just had this traumatic event in life? If I would have had an AI message when I got hit by that fucking ice cream truck, and it was like, hey, I hope you get a sundae.
You might have had a split or some shit.
Looks like you did a banana split. Like, when I tell you I'm not even suing, I'm going to whoever created this on some taking, like, I got a special set of skills just for you to open a can of whoop ass, personally. And I'm going to just leave it at that.
Well, that's going to be it from my side of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And rip from the headlines this week. You know, AI at your own risk out there, folks. Kyle, what did you see on your side of the wellness streets?
I'm trying to woosah and bring my blood pressure down. Because you just raised it with this athletic intelligence.
I'm sorry, man. I got to keep you up to date. So if you get any kind of funky messages, just understand where it's coming from. They're trying to give you jokes and motivation at the same time.
I got some athletic intelligence for you, all right? I'm going to get into my own segment of Rip from the Headlines this week, starting off with the good, Tony.
Okay, let's hear it.
First and foremost, a creator by the name of Michael Stevens has created a body deck of cards that I thought was really interesting, Tony. Now, this body deck of cards is similar to a card deck that you would get, you know, from your local deli, convenience store, or whatever. If you're trying to play a little spades, a little I declare war, whatever you want to do, some poker, a little, you know, Texas Hold'em 5 cards if you're really into that kind of thing. But nonetheless, it's a traditional set. So you got face cards, you know, clubs, diamonds, numbers all the way up to 10. And it's a way to introduce people into anatomy, right? If anyone has ever been to the Bodies exhibit when it was traveling, where you get to see the inside of the body that most people don't get to see, you get to see the muscles, the bones, the structure, right? And it's informative and it's fun.
Yeah, except for if you take some time and you learn about who is actually in that Bodies exhibit.
Yep.
The Bodies, did you ever do any deep dive into that?
Not really.
So the Bodies exhibit, first of all, to get people to be in those positions and to
you gotta
be
donate your body to science.
This is the tricky thing, right?
Okay.
So that's what you would believe, that you have to donate your body to science. Now, if you pay attention to how these people actually look, the bulk majority of the people that they have on exhibit are Asian people, right? They're Asian from China. The people who have made the exhibit people have gone back and traced out, like, how did you get all of these bodies to be not just in the one city that you know, but all over the world?
Traveler.
So there is a high likelihood that a lot of these people that you see on exhibit are political prisoners that came from China, and we are starting to display them all over here. The crazy thing is that if you were donating your body to science, there's a certain period of time that you would need to donate them in, right? To make that body still there, because the body would start to break down.
Decompose.
The amount of time that it takes for you to do that is less than the time that you would have to be a missing person or given out. So it's like literally a 48-hour window for you to do this whole process, and the window for you to be reported or missing is like 7 days. So something like that. It's like, wait a second, hold on. That math doesn't make sense. How do we get these people to pop up here and do all the rest of that stuff? So when you really get into it, it looks a little crazy. But going all the way back to the card side, I do think that this would have been a great addition to anybody who's trying to learn anatomy coming through there. Like, I would have loved to play a game of cards while I was trying to memorize some of this stuff. That would have been
Texas
fun.
Hold'em, you know what I mean? Little Go Fish, all of the above. I think it's a great introductory tool to anatomy and physiology. What you just laid out is crazy.
You got to do your research. Go in there and look up what the history of the body's exhibit is. This is not a Tony opinion. This is Googleable facts.
That's a wild time. We're going to slide out of that. And hopefully those political prisoners, if you will, I appreciate they sacrificed the service.
Yo, it's wild. When you look at it, you'd be like, yo, you imagine you pissing somebody off so much, they'd be like, you know what? I got just a thing for you. Don't even worry about it. I'm going to have you right in Detroit.
He got some nice calves.
Yeah.
Showcase his legs.
They'd be like, yeah, for the rest of life, this is what you're doing.
That's a bad time, man. Sliding into some more bad news, Tony. I want to talk about real life catching up to us in real time.
Kind of like how I found out I was OG this week.
Kind of like how you found out you was the OG. I am the OG because oftentimes on the podcast we talk about SpongeBob.
Okay.
And by we, I mean me.
I was about to say that's more
and you never have a frame of reference because you missed the SpongeBob window.
I am older than you are in that space. Yes, for sure.
SpongeBob is as impactful as The Simpsons and Family Guy. Like, is that lineage of cartoons, South Park, Beavis and Butthead, SpongeBob is in there.
Okay, I'm not knocking you.
It's now at the point where SpongeBob has now partnered with Wendy's to give you a real live Krabby Patty, Tony.
See, Dave is rolling in his grave somewhere. He would never be okay with this.
Now, the pineapple under the sea Frosty is a pineapple puree in a traditional Frosty. The Krabby Patty itself has a cartoon-sized piece of lettuce, like the whole, what do you call it, the head of lettuce?
Yeah.
Like, just imagine a whole leaf that is bigger than the actual burger itself, and the burger just has the secret sauce. Obviously, there's been conspiracy theories about what the secret sauce is, and they were saying it had to be like some crab in it because Mr. Crab was the only crab. There was never any other crabs around, and he was killing his homies.
You're taking me into a deep dive that... I appreciate you.
SpongeBob got some hidden messages in there. That's all I'm saying, right? But nonetheless, how do you feel about the Krabby Patty making its appearance in real life with a partnership with Wendy's?
So I appreciate the nostalgia that you find for the story. And yeah, part of that nostalgia.
This isn't a good nostalgia. I'm just drawing attention to this food crime that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that, again, you're going to start to see more and more crossover when two businesses are coming together to sell you something. Both of those businesses could be impacted by what can happen in that space. So that, from that standpoint alone, a legacy cartoon coming into contact with a legacy burger place, it's an indication of people really needing to play up nostalgia to sell stuff. It's like, hey, we need you to sell more of these. So we're going to tap into that childhood root and make you come out and buy this thing that's kind of like a long form gimmick. So I'm not knocking it. It's just not going to speak to me because, again, that's not my childhood.
I'm drawn to this because I think about back in the day when it always seemed like pop culture was so ingratiated into fast food, into radio, into all the commercials on TV. So it was like, yo, the new SpongeBob movie is coming out, but you can get the watch at Burger King.
Nah, I definitely remember that.
On the radio, you could get this out of your cereal box. Or, you know what I mean? Like, everything kind of seemed intertwined. And now it's like you're trying to bring this nostalgia back to the forefront, but it doesn't really feel the same, right? Like, I had the SpongeBob watch from Burger King in high school because that was like Fam, that was like having a G-Shock going back in the day. Like, that was my time in my era. I had the little Plankton watch, the little green one, and I had the SpongeBob joint.
Y'all high school different in Baltimore. I can say
that. it was a time, nonetheless. But I do think it's interesting to sell nostalgia. I don't think that runway is long enough for sustainability.
No, it's a quick hit. It's just like any of those things that you would see in the former rollout for like a movie or something like that. Now, my era was more the McDonald's toys. Like, okay, Transformers is out. You're going to get this new
straight up Grimace
that turns into Optimus Prime with some wild shit.
Facts.
It's like,
the McDonald's toys used to hit different.
Yeah, exactly. And
you would fight over them. You had to go to different locations.
Yeah, all of that.
You remember the fries and the prize for the Monopoly pieces?
I definitely did, and they definitely had a scam going on that side.
Was crazy. Like, when you unpack the marketing and how people, you talked about, what was that, your Pepsi rewards? You was trying to fly the jet? Man, it's some crazy times out there.
Yeah, man. We fell for it before. We falling for it again.
Speaking of crazy times, falling for it, Tone. What if I were to tell you that in a city not too far from here, I'm talking about Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there was a scooter that was parked to a street sign that got a boot on it.
Yeah.
And ticketed for being parked illegally. Now, when I say scooter, I'm not talking the little electric joints that delivery dudes be on, sitting on. I'm talking about the kick, push, stand up, electric scooter got a boot on it from being illegally parked.
Yeah, I feel like they, should have just confiscated the whole thing. Because I feel like after a certain point in time, this just might be my bicycle hate. I'm not a fan of scooters. I'm just going to be there. So
take a look at what's going on here.
I hope they take a scooter to the impound lot. Even one step further.
It's like you had your scooter locked up. They double locked it with another lock and put a note on there to let you know that you are being ticketed.
Yeah, I support this. This is my strictly scooter hate coming out. But it is kind of hysterical that you could actually get money off of people parking non-licensed vehicles outside.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. But get the scooters off the road. Yeah, I'm still here for that. If
there was ever a reason to throw hands with a meter maid, that'd be the one.
You lost when you was a grown man on a razor. That's where you should have stopped the game.
Man, I wanted one of those so bad from the commercials.
How old though?
Man, I was double digits, but low double digits, like 11, 10, you know? Man, such a time in the past. Well, let's speed it up to the future a little bit. And I do want to cover a quick story fresh out of CBS News Boston. And this was talking directly about the Meta glasses that we spoke on last week.
Okay.
And we've been speaking on for a little bit. You got a pair.
I do have a pair.
The incognegros, if you will.
That's a Tony term.
That's a Tony term. That's what they call it. Watch the light, ladies. If you see a light on, act accordingly. Now, these Meta glasses have been known to capture audio, visuals, and as well as play music and things of that nature.
Yep.
This news story in Boston shows 2 Harvard students that created an app that integrated with the Meta glasses that would allow you to physically see someone with your glasses and get information about their name, their address, and even other information out in the world from just sight. How do you feel about that being a sooner reality than we would like it to be?
Yeah, so Minority Report is here. That's Facts. Just what people just have to accept.
Will Smith theory.
Yeah, it's a real
enemy of the state.
Yeah,
Men in Black. He's been preparing us for this.
This is real-time learnings. AI is making it a lot easier for people to do anything. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it all the time, folks. You know. And at the same point in time, they could have literally done that with any type of camera. So I don't know if it's innately bad for the Meta.
But if it comes in your glasses.
Yeah, it's a little easier for you to pull off the incognito aspect of this type of lookup. I would not be that type of creep. I think it goes back to the beginning of the conversation. Yo, don't be creepy. You can make this something that could be beneficial, but this is the same facial recognition kind of software that police departments have been using for the longest time. So any of the cameras that you see in the wild, so to speak, have this capability. It's just a matter of whether or not we institute that. So now the fact that students are starting to get to it, I hope they don't put that program out there because there's just going to be a lot more people that could do the same exact thing.
I agree. My issue being this was created by college students.
Yeah.
They was probably partying, you know the drill. Hey, Let's create this thing.
Nah, did you see the college students?
Yeah, I did.
They wasn't at a lot of college. They wasn't at the parties.
They wasn't at
Let's
the
just
parties.
be honest about that.
We going to be honest about that.
I keep telling you, the people that we let take over social media are not the ones that are outside socializing. These are not these people.
Social media was created because of the loneliness.
This is what I'm saying. We're going to go all the way back to the root.
The irony of it all is wild. And they were not the cool kids.
They were not.
Contrary to popular belief. Tom had all them friends on MySpace because he had no friends in real life.
Zero friends. But I think Tom might have been the only one that
he was top one in everybody's friend list. Yeah, I got Tom in my top 8. He number 1.
It was like that one picture. That's all he needed to do.
Nobody knew Tom.
Tom is on the beach somewhere laughing his ass off.
I hope so. I hope he end up like the Subway dude, you know.
Nah, see, I don't want to put that on nobody.
Now, speaking of bad news, Tony, let's talk about the last story that I'm going to cover, and it's going to be from BBC News. That is the British
broadcast
channel, not nothing else. So get your mind out of the gutter. But in the gutter, I happen to see this statue of Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out.
Okay.
In the exact moment when he was falling in the sunken place. Now, this was brought to my attention for a myriad of reasons, if you will. Of like, why the hell would an actor need a statue for this movie in particular? He was Fred Hampton in what was that movie called? I forgot. You know what I'm talking about. The Black movie.
The Black movie, yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
Damn it, I don't remember the name. It got in that mix of weird slave movies and oppressing movies that I didn't want to see. But nonetheless, why he ain't get a statue from the Fred Hampton role that he played? Fred Hampton was killed in his 20s. He was a freedom fighter.
Yeah.
You gave it to the Get Out man when he was, the exact moment he was falling in a sunken place. Not him sitting down, him enjoying life. This is when he went into the depths of the worst possible place that you can be, and you want to memorialize this. How do you feel about it, Tony?
First of all, you definitely spend a lot of time on the other side of the internet. I definitely appreciate where you're coming from.
Next, I saw it.
I don't feel any way about it, but if I was Daniel Kaluuya, I would 100% feel a way about it because it's like, hey, I don't know if this is the statue that I want my face to be on.
That's craziness.
I don't know if this is where I want to, really plant my flag and be like, yeah, I'm going to go see the statue today. It's me going through turmoil and black pain. This is exactly what I want to be remembering.
That's the equivalent of Denzel getting a statue for glory. It's like, yo, we're going to memorialize him as a slave crying because that's what he did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's a wild look, but...
Why are we doing this?
Listen, man, a lot of people don't have a lot of good reason to be doing anything.
I would agree. And if they ever, I'm putting this on record right now, if there was ever someone that tried to make a statue of me in one of the worst moments of my life,
yeah,
I'm going to come back and haunt them. Oh, I'm going to haunt you. As long as I can.
I appreciate that, man.
We're going to slide out of that, bro.
Okay.
We're going to get into a little Raising the Bar segment this week.
Let's raise it up then.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you're now in store to raise your bar. Now, Brother Tone.
Yes, sir.
Man, oh man, this wild journey and ride that we have been on called Off the Strength has been an aviation of building the plane as you fly it.
Okay.
It's just, we just been rolling with the punches, so to speak. And I think about friends in business right now. Often that's a taboo topic, right? The idea of friends in business sounds amazing, but the reality rarely matches the expectations. And I've seen that story play out over and over again. Briefly, what I think about is in college. I always go back to my childhood and I think about those defining moments when you really see the shift in life.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, I had mad homies in college. Like the whole 11th floor was the squad. But when it came time to pick someone to live with, to have a roommate, my expectations were a little higher than just my friend expectations. It's like, yo, I need somebody that's not dirty. I need somebody that is tidy, respectful, don't want to be in here wilding, so to speak. And there was a lot of homies that I was friends with that I couldn't live with, right? And it was like just that separation and recognition of that was a defining moment for me. Yeah. And I think the same has to be said for what it's like for friends in business. Now, I just so happened to be listening to an audiobook this week. Shout out to my client, Charlie, that put me on. And the book is called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. And arguably, it's one of those cringe-worthy kind of books, but there were some gems in there. Each chapter starts with like a song lyric. You know, anytime Ben Horowitz start to quote Kanye, you're going down a slippery slope.
It could be very tricky.
Exactly. So once you sift past all of that and really get into some of the messages, one of the things that came up for me was Ben reflecting on effectively working with a friend of his for over 18 years in 3 different companies.
Wow.
Right. Now, he said there are 2 reasons why business relationships no longer work. He said most business relationships tend to become too tense to tolerate or not tense enough to be productive after a while. Either people challenge each other to the point they don't like each other anymore, or they become complacent about others' feedback and no longer benefit from their relationship. Mm-hmm. Now, these 2 reasons were sinking. I was like, damn, man, I'm just thinking about not necessarily just business. I'm going to expand a little bit into like just ideation, right? How many times have you linked with a homie? You know, you put a little smoke in the air, smoke some line, you get the politicking, you get the, yo, imagine if we did this and that, right? Like, how many of those ideas actually grow legs and continue to move forward?
Yeah.
How many of them just stay in that moment and clear as soon as the smoke is clear, right? Like, it's few, far, and in between. And as I'm listening to this audiobook, I'm just kind of taking it in like, damn, this is kind of crazy. Pardon the left. Now, even after 18 years, Ben was reflecting on how he stayed in business with his friend. And he said, yo, he upsets me every single day. Mm-hmm. And he finds something wrong in my thinking. But I do the same for him, and that's how it works, right? And I think about the role of constructive criticism. I think about the role of positive feedback. A lot of times, you never get celebrated for the work that you've done. Mm-hmm. Right? Especially if you're doing work that's not in a recognized field that you get awarded in, right? Like, if you don't pay to play to get into a podcast award, you're never going to get an award for podcasting. It don't matter how good, how bad, how pivotal, how whatever your podcast is. If you're not in the Webbies, you ain't getting the Webby.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So when you don't get that recognition, I feel like resentment can build up, right? But then also the flip side of that coin is if you're not in a space to be able to take constructive criticism, then you're not in a space to grow, right? You have tunnel vision, you're locked in on this one thing, and that one thing could be the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And somebody has to tell you that from the outside looking in. There's nothing in this world that was built by one single person, and that's the biggest lie there ever was. I'm self-made. I did this by myself. One book, one whatever. No, you didn't, fam. You either stole from somebody else and didn't acknowledge them, or that's really all it is. You know, no idea is original. Everything is whatever Nas said. Now, Brother Tone.
You let Nas down. I just want to let you know that.
Nah, that was J. Cole. That was not me. It was that. There was the lost tapes, man. The tapes got lost, brother. Tone, as a man who identifies as a serial entrepreneur, what advice could you give about building a business with a friend, and what are some red flags to avoid when building a business with a friend off the strength?
So first thing I would say is you should definitely have a clear and concise definition of what you both think good business is. And that is something that might be a far cry from whatever your friendship has been defined as. Yeah. So not everybody can tell you concisely, here's what I think good business is. Yeah. It looks like this, it reports like this. Before you even get into the money aspect of it, what's the base tenets of what it is to have and execute a good business? What often happens is the idea and the creative process is something that is very exciting, right? The motivation to do something that's brand new and fresh is not the same motivation that is going to be to execute what the ins and outs of what business just has to be. So at some point in time, there's going to have to be some uncomfortable conversations in there. And this is where I really do think the friendship side gets tested when you have to really evaluate what's your communication style. More than anything else, in that communication style, what's understood about your relationship versus what shouldn't even be in question in that relationship. Yeah. I think it's been a evolution, much like everything else that I have ever gone through in this process, where I'm learning in practice and in real time. I have been in positions where I could want the best for somebody and not necessarily understand how to truly articulate that in a way that's going to be motivational. And at the same point in time, wanting something that somebody can't execute on, they're telling you they can't execute it on it for a specific reason. So what does it mean to really get to the brass tacks of like, okay, here's what we need to do to move this forward? It becomes a red flag issue when you start to build resentment underneath those things that are just, again, base tenets of what business has to be. Is going to mean that you have to do some of the ugly bits. You're going to have to eat the vegetables. You're going to have to do the things that...
Eat the frog, as you say.
See, come on now. See, it's there. You have to show up for business like you would show up for something that does not have room for excuses. And I honestly don't know if that is in everybody's capacity. I don't think you can be in business with everybody. I would want to build with everybody. And I would want to share with everybody, but at the end of the day, the tolerance, if you want to have a successful business, it has to almost be agnostic of all the reasons why something is a hurdle or a task that can't be completed. And you both have to come to, or however many people have to come to an agreement on, like, this is what has to get done and this is how we can move that forward. Hopefully, you are also practicing a healthy relationship with other type of friends that you have. So you can be able to articulate, take into that criticism, understand how to have a disagreement. Specifically, when you're talking about men having a disagreement and it not turn into something that is...
You said what?
Yeah. An event that has to
Come on, let's throw hands.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an incendiary event just because you don't agree with somebody or just because something didn't happen that you would have preferred to have happen. There needs to be clear communication, and the best aspect of that is really trusting what the base tenets of your friendship was. If you can always come back to that as the anchor, if the anchor is strong, it's going to hold you down. Now, if the anchor is weak and y'all wasn't really friends and something starts to get a little rocky inside that space, yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be. You know, I've seen them repoed, resold, and redriven all in the same space. Think about how many different people have come in and tried the exact same thing that any type of business I've seen, and I've seen them friends, we just was talking about them, want to move out, have a whole ass different life, change identity, change states. Now I got a whole new, pop out with a whole new, you know, added partner into their life, and the other one's still being in the dust somewhere watching whatever's going on the timeline, you know? So I've seen it happen firsthand. I've also seen it happen in tertiary spaces where it's just kind of like, you got to be able to charge some stuff to the game, not to the heart, and be able to keep it as professional as you can when you need to, but then also keep it as real as possible if it is a true friend.
Man, that was a lot. We walked through years of life just in your experience and expelling how you felt about friends and business. I'm thinking about the term friend and how we define it. We talked about that years ago. Like, we use the term friend too loosely.
Yeah.
Language as a whole is just extremely loose present day. But when I think about friend, that used to hold weight. You used to have to earn that title. You just didn't get that off rip. And present day, if you've never been in my home, if we've never sat down and had a meal, we never broke bread, I don't know if we can really be friends. Right? Like, we need to spend time together to know one another, to disagree with one another, to really understand somebody's story. Unless I know your story, like, yo, where do you come from?
Yeah.
You know, like, how did you get here when I crossed paths, or when our paths crossed, so to speak? And that's where I put that friend line at. That's completely separate of what business productivity looks like, right? When you said being in a space of no excuses, like, I saw a podcast clip of some guy and some woman arguing. You know how them podcast dudes be. Yeah. I hate it, but we here. And it was like, you know, you don't talk to your boyfriend the same way you do your boss. And he was like trying to like stump this woman, right? And his whole premise was there's a level of respect that you have for your boss, that's your superior, that you don't have for your boyfriend, right? And I was just kind of like, that sounds a bit, you know, mansplaining. I don't really want to dive too deep into it, but like, I see the correlation that you're trying to make. my point in bringing this up is there is a level of intensity that comes with your job. There is a level of steadfastness that has to be there when you are working on the clock to someone else's demand.
Yeah.
And that energy doesn't always exist in a friendship. You have to bring that. You have to talk about that. And the last part being the communication being the main thing, right? You talked about that. Now, finding out somebody's communication style. One of my posts on IG that got more likes than I ever really got before, it just said, if you ever need me, I'm always 3 missed calls and 4 text messages away, right? Like, because that was so relatable to people because everybody wants to be seen, but nobody available.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that seems to be the case for the work. It's like everybody wants to be in the limelight, but nobody wants to figure out how the electricity work behind the scenes, right? Like, where do these cables plug in at? You give somebody a microphone and they just want to speak into it. They don't know you need an amp. You need a power source, you know what I'm saying? You need a screen. You need somebody to get the levels right. You need somebody to edit the sound, to give you the video. It's so many other things that go into the business side, right? And I think that gets lost because people just like to cut corners. People like they fuck buddies. You know what I'm saying? They like, that's really what it comes to.
I don't know what type of friendship
drawing the
you
line
got
of friends and benefits. You know, I try to be on the straight and narrow. Sometimes the devil be on my back.
Let me just go ahead and go to the straight and narrow and let you know what type of friendship.
Because when you talk about friends
we ain't never having
with benefits, no, we ain't talking about that type of business. But you know what I'm saying? That gray line gets crossed more times than none, you know? And sliding out of that responsibly, we're going to leave you with this gem of be mindful of who you call friend. Be even more mindful of who you go into business with.
Yeah, I could agree to that.
So we're going to have to slide out of that, Brother Tone. We're going to have to get into a little bit of relaxing responsibly.
I wanted to be responsible, my man. Now, you got to tell me, after all of that, who is this Relax Responsibly segment brought to you in part by?
It's brought to you in part by me. Damn it, that is K.R. Jones. Right now, Relax Responsibly is brought to you in part by me because I provide the vibes. And those vibes are at Frequency Movement, Saturdays, 11 a.m. for my elevated yoga class. We elevate your movement pattern. We add a little pre-roll, a little breath work, and the musical vibes are curated by none other than me.
Okay.
It's the time and place to be, a better way to start your weekend.
I like to hear that, man.
Elevated yoga, come check me. Now, when we talk about relaxing responsibly this week, Brother Tone, I am here to tell you that I mixed the science with the foolishness.
Okay.
And I came out on top.
Talk to me about what that actually means.
Now, as I continue to age gracefully like a fine wine into my early 30s, Tone, that sip of alcohol seems to cost a lot more in recovery time the next day than it used to in my 20s.
You don't say.
Luckily, I was introduced to a new product called Z-Biotics, a pre-alcohol drink that works like a charm, Tony.
See, this is what happens when you're on the line of innovation. You're right at the front line. You're meeting people where they need to be, Kyle.
Now, you ask how? It's not magic, it's science. That's what helps the liver filtrate and break down the alcohol byproducts remaining in our gut, largely responsible for the hangover feelings the next day and the rough nights of sleep. Now, I was able to drink responsibly, but also seize the next day and enjoy tomorrow with Z-Biotics.
There we go.
Bingo.
Z-Biotics had a pretty solid team there too, man. That's definitely somebody that we ran into at that Jack Taylor event.
Now, minus all the bullshit, because that's how you do the ad. You like that voice. That ain't even my real speaking voice. On the real, having a product to drink before you get into the debauchery, so to speak, right? Now, the debauchery could be sometimes, if you like me and you go out to spaces, I don't gotta have a wallet to leave the crib, fam. I show up, yo! Give me a drink for him. Give me a drink for him. Like, people buy me alcohol. I don't even got to ask for it. It's just a given. So after about like your seventh one in, you a little down bad.
7's a big number now these days.
7 is crazy, right?
I don't know if I could do that.
I got a strong 3, maybe a shot. You know how people like to get their shots in on the weekends. It's madness. But imagine a probiotic that would help you with that hangover the next day, right? I already wasn't really drinking cocktails like that because the sugar content is so high. That is largely responsible for what the hangover is like the next day. But to be able to not have that and still be productive, it's a beautiful thing.
Hey, man, shout out to you enjoying life but being responsible about life. I like it.
You're damn right, Tony. How were you relaxing responsibly this week?
Man, I got a chance to check out the Coco Roco show.
Okay.
Which was definitely like a little bit of an infusion jazz.
Say that
plus,
fast 3 times.
Yeah, it definitely landed the plane and
It's
not
a lot
going
of
to go back
K's
in
and
there.
O's in that.
Yeah. Jazz plus a little bit like almost ska-like plus a little Fela-like. And honestly, Kyle, the relaxation element came from the fact that I really do enjoy live instrumentation and live music. I haven't had too many instances recently where I would jump into that, but seeing people play actual instruments and seeing the artistry that comes from you, I'm going to not just get busy on the trombone, I'm going to jump on the sax, I'm going to go play the piano, I'm going to see all the rest of that.
Multifaceted.
Yeah, and be able to vocalize on top of all of that. Like, it was cool to see this band be so intertwined, but again, just understanding all the different elements that came into them putting on that presentation. Some of the people that were in the band had only been around for like a day or two. Yeah. They had some people get jammed up, visa situations, couldn't make it. They're from over in London. Yeah. So to see somebody who is just walking around and they're like, yo, we need you to be our drummer tonight. And here's the set list of these like 25 songs. And they could play it. And I'm talking about seamless. It's like, yo, there's something to be inspired by high level of artistry that you could just, all right, this is who I am. I already know what's going on. Let me pick these pieces up. Same with one of the vocalists that they had sitting at that time. So I was like, it's awesome to see somebody operate in their element at the highest possible level and feel completely not only confident, but like, nah, I just did that shit. A super relaxation, super recharging for me because it's like, oh, okay, there's something there. I need to figure out where's my space to be like that.
Off the string.
Yeah, man. I definitely was happy about it.
Man, when I think about live music, especially to the description that you just gave, I think about jam sessions, right? Like, and for people that aren't musicians, a lot of times some of the greatest songs that we've ever had just came from putting a bunch of artists in the same space and letting them riff off of one another. Like, yo, I like that chord that you just did over there. Give me that. Hey, you over here on the piano, add a little doo-doo-doo. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that feeling is contagious. And it also brings continuity. And I think about something like Erykah Badu's Tyrone, right? Like, everybody knows Erykah Badu, Tyrone. We know the song. She did that on mistake, just like rehearsing with her band. They was warming up and they just started riffing, like, call them. Like, and that's how we got a song like that.
Speaking of which, did you see that Erykah Badu is really starting to ask people if she should open up her own wellness facility?
I mean, after she sold the candle.
Yeah, the candle was already up. That was highest of high. Sold out multiple times over with the candle. But she's been online doing more kickboxing-ish type of workouts. She was rucking the other day, which was like, yo, Erykah Badu.
She was what?
Rucking. So rucking, Kyle, when you throw on the rucksack, it's, again, one of them overseas words, but just a backpack with weights on it. Okay. You've seen me ruck. I've rucked walking into you a couple of times.
Whoa. Pardon the left. I don't know nothing about your rucking.
You definitely see me outside rucking.
You keep that ruck to yourself.
But she was out walking around with the weight vest on, with the ankle weights, with the hand weights, and she's just hiking, going around and just being in nature. And in a post that she put out, she was like, hey, would y'all come to my wellness facility if I open it up? And the day that happens, I want to look down this lens right now and let everybody out there know I need to catch Baduism at that space. I need to be in there. I don't know what's going on. I want to be a primetime contributor to whatever you have happening. I'm promising you I can make that space better. I'm going to be here regardless of what's going on. Let you know I'm pulling up to the Erykah Badu wellness space.
You better take it easy. She's been known to turn brothers barefoot.
I'm definitely going to be out there with the crochet hat, crochet pants, no shoes.
And the sweater was wet.
Yeah. I'll be holding signs in the front. Oh, we living in a dream, girl. Oh, your eyes still green, girl.
My eyes are green.
I'll be right out there.
Nobody did the math on that. I mean, listen, I'm here for it. The irony of this rucksack that you described sounds a bit like a bag lady, if you will.
She is a bag lady. It comes full circle. She has become a bag lady.
That emotional baggage has indeed turned into physical weight manifesting to better yourself.
And now she's out there kicking ass.
I got nothing bad to say about it.
Yeah, man, I'm super supportive of it. I know it was a little bit of a tangent, but I had to. You brought it up. I had to make sure that you caught up with that.
I'm here for any Erykah Badu tangent.
That's also why I'm on top of the news, Kyle. I got to make sure that whatever she's putting out, I'm picking it up.
We can get behind that.
Hopefully.
Any day. Sounds like you're hopeful for something, Tony.
Well, in addition to that hope. So I would say that's the highest of high level hope. You know, I'm probably going to get in trouble for that hope, but I'll stand on it, damn it. I'll walk with that one. Ain't going to be no issues. I am also hopeful, Kyle, to still be in that support and celebration of creating spaces where Black men can come and heal. Like, actually, today in particular, like I said, I had a chance and opportunity to speak on a panel where we were putting the men back in mental health. And on the biggest level of hope that I have coming into this next week.
I'm sorry. I couldn't let that go on any
The
further.
highest level of hope that I have coming into next week is going to come from seeing how that space is not only needed, but it is some space that people expect me to be in.
Yeah.
It was a couple of different people that shared their stories that are really going through stuff. I think I said it before, I'll say it again. These last 4 years coming out of the pandemic into whatever we're going to call this time, post-pandemic, like all of the rest of that, there have been people who have been going through some serious stuff at a lot of different levels. Now, I am not somebody that is an expert by any means in mental health issues, or I'm not somebody that is at all licensed to give any kind of perspective that you probably should deal with and go to if you do truly have some issues that you're struggling with. But I'm somebody who does practice full holistic health, and I wouldn't be able to separate my mind, my body, my spirit, and all the stuff that I think actually contribute to what your mental health is going to be. These practices that I share, these things, these thoughts that we talk about on here, it's all correlated to how do I make myself and the people I care about feel better. So in that regard alone, I feel hopeful to be able to continue to be able to push that forward, to be able to continue to tell people, yo, here is where it did not go right for me. Here is where my work had to start. I was not feeling great coming into this, and that's okay. Here are some of the pieces that allow me to still be able to show up and be able to be somebody who is a leader in this space, and I rightfully so will take that responsibility to keep making all the different ways that I find health and wellness accessible to the people who need it the most.
It's a lot of hope, brother.
I'm very hopeful, man.
You putting it all on the line.
It's got to be there.
Leaving it on the court.
What are you hopeful for this week, man?
Man, as you laid that out, I was thinking about my journey into vulnerability. For those that do follow me on social media, they know that like I speak on how I feel pretty frequently. Like I don't really hold any punches, and if it's not in my post, it's in my story. If it ain't in my story, it's in my reel, and it's very expressive because I feel that the highest level of your holistic journey has to be people seeing you make that climb, right? Like they have to see the vulnerability. I don't know why this example just popped in my head. This is horrible, but I'm thinking about Eminem in 8 Mile.
I'm sorry, what?
Right, with Eminem.
You was mom spaghetti right now?
Yeah.
That's what you was on?
But when he beat Chester, whatever his name was, in the freestyle.
Chester's never a great name to have for a freestyle, honestly.
No, it was Clarence. Clarence parents have a real good marriage. Like, you remember, that was the old Jet Jackson looking dude. Anthony Mackie, that was his name. Nonetheless, I bring all this up because Eminem won that battle because he was vulnerable. He put all of what would be used against him to the forefront, right? And when you put it all on the line, so to speak, you don't have anything to hide from, right? I don't have to worry about a skeleton in my closet. I don't have to worry about that insecurity, or I may come across with whatever that imposter syndrome is, but that shit is temporary like anything else. If you don't have imposter syndrome, you probably not doing enough work.
Not on a big enough stage.
You're not on a big enough stage. So with that being said, my hope would then be boiled down to hoping everybody does the work that will intentionally expand their horizons and hopefully blaze the path to putting you into more rooms, like we talked about at the top of the show, right? Like, you're never invited into a space that you're not supposed to be in, right? Like even when you look at the mythical shit of like vampires and shit like that, I know I'm all over the place, but stay with me. Vampires can't come into your home unless you invite them in, right?
That's always been a weird ass rule. I never understood that.
But I understand it completely, because if you want the shenanigans, you gotta ask for the shenanigans, right? Like you have to cross that threshold into it, and the same goes for vulnerability and that uphill battle of what life and the journey ahead looks like. Like you have to cross that threshold to get into it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, man, I hope you take those steps that you need to, because it's different for everybody, to really expand on what that journey looks like for you.
The irony is lost on me that the world going forward is going to require you to be vulnerable to be successful.
Yeah.
It's going to be expected for you to be vulnerable, to be at all at the echelon that you see yourself. So the combination of that vulnerability and the consistency to do the work, like you're saying, is going to be the things that really get you through there. But last but not least, I got to go back to that vampire part.
What's up?
I would survive every vampire movie if that was actually the case, because I never want people to just pop up and just be like, yo, can I come in? I'd be like,
they're
hell
very
no.
seductive. You know what I'm saying? Like they really work their way in.
Can I come in? I'd be, nah, fam, what you doing? What's your point?
If she looked like Erykah Badu, nah, yeah, see, yeah.
Now the playing field has been leveled.
You know, she might put some teeth on your neck. You know what I'm saying?
I can't do it. That I would have called Baduism. That's what got me out the game. I figured it out.
Then you've been out here biting other bitches. You know what I'm saying? You got anything else you want to leave the people with, Brother Tone?
I think I left everything on the line. I don't have anything else to put out there, Kyle. If they need to contact us, or if they want to get a little bit more information from either one of us individually, Kyle, where are the places that people can turn to?
Man, you can find us on Instagram at @offthestrength_, or if you're in the greatest city in the world, sometimes that is New York City, you can come on down to Rockefeller Center, where you can see us record live at Newsstand Studios in the block of the Rock and the bottom of the Rock. If you can't make it in person, you could always visit Instagram at Rockefeller Center or Twitter at Rock Center NYC.
That's right, folks. And of course, we are always brought to you in part by the good brother Brian Perkins and I Did That Productions. Kyle, I don't have anything else I want to leave the people with. I just got to say peace and much love to everybody out there. Until next time, hopefully we'll see you soon. Peace. What's good, everybody? I'm a trainer called Tony, and I am here from the infamous Off the Strength podcast, asking you today, listeners, viewers, wherever you may be, to please like, listen, and subscribe to our podcast. This is how we're going to continue to be able to deliver you the best goddamn wellness information out here. So if you want to keep hearing this and you want us to keep growing, you are a part of this show just as much as anything else. So please go to offthestrength.com. Make sure you check out our blogs. Make sure you check us out on IG. And if you're hearing this voice and you didn't hit that subscribe button, know that Kyle is going to come looking for you.
You got that right.